As you can see, it's pouring rain outside, so I was on my way over to go play pickleball, and unfortunately it started raining, and I was gonna go watch a tournament over there, and I thought, what a better time than to talk a little bit about pickleball and some sports at the Villages. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure you can see the big smile on my face right now, because when I started doing this video, I realized that I could not get the Philadelphia Eagles live. But I was kind of following them along on, as the score goes along through the app and stuff like that, but not quite the same as watching the game. And all of a sudden I saw, oh my God, there's 2 minutes left and it's a tie ball game. And I'm sitting there going, oh, this is crazy, And luckily I went in and checked the other game that was on Fox, and sure enough, they had the Eagles game for the overtime, and it was a nail biter against Washington. They came down to kicking a field goal at the end to win the game, so that was great. So big smile on my face. But back to reality, because they're 4-0 now, so that's pretty good for this year. Anyway, back to reality and pickleball. Pickleball at the Villages, it's been a couple of years now that I've done this channel. I go way back and I kind of chuckle at the first video, and I had no idea where I was going. I was just coming down to this place called The Villages, and I was going to do a lifestyle visit eventually, and so on and so on. And I remember when I came down here, I kept going, am I going to be able to play pickleball? Are there any pickleball courts? And so on and so on. And now I've learned so much, so I can't imagine that it's not daunting to somebody just coming down here. So what I'm going to do is just cover some things, show you where you can get information, and answer some of the questions that I've had over the last couple of years about pickleball, and hopefully that will help you out. I'm not going to dive into it real heavy, everything that goes on, but I'm going to give you an idea. And also, if you're already here, you may learn a few things if you like playing pickleball about how you can get involved in tournaments and that type of stuff. So, first off, the big thing is finding information about pickleball. And there's one great place to go on the web, and let's take a look at it. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know darn well that I always say that this is one of the greatest places to go. This is districtgov.org, and there is an absolute wealth of information on here. I mean, anywhere from your taxes to properties to everything else is on here. And if you come up to departments right here, let's make sure we're getting this right, and you go down to recreation, you'll come into an area like this. And like I said, there's a ton of information on here. The banner that scrolls across the top is a lot of the active information, but also what we're about ready to take a look at is if you go to down to the rec centers every Thursday, a new version of this comes out. And what this is actually, it's like a magazine, and it's kind of like a Bible of everything that goes on here. But what we're going to do right now, to make it easier, obviously, is take a look at the digital part of it. And you can get directly to that. Remember, you go to districtgov.org, and then you can go to departments and recreation. And then right down here on the right, there is, let's see where I can point to it, right there. There is recreation, parks, and publication. We're going to click to that for a second. But you probably want to watch this banner that flips across the top for a few seconds, because there seems to always be something on there that will kind of help you out with a lot of stuff. Also, this column right here, events coming up, Pickleball Expo, this is October 16th. So right now, this is the 1st of October. So in a couple of weeks, the Pickleball Expo, I'll just click on this to see exactly what it is. And there it is. Want to improve your game? Join us, learn about pickleball, latest technologies, proper hydration, and so on and so on. So that if you want to learn about pickleball, it's probably a great place to go. Now, let me say one thing about pickleball, especially I think in the Villages. There are I don't know, in August, I think there was 247 courts. We'll take a look at some of the courts here in a second. And the courts themselves are scattered through the whole villages. So people that don't live here right now in the villages and you've never been here, I realize you have no concept on how large the villages is. It's absolutely huge. I mean, you figure a half an hour to drive from one end to the other. The way the villages are set up, they're not like these little closed off things. It's kind of open to everywhere. And today I was halfway up the whole section in the villages playing pickleball halfway up there. And I came down here and played a little bit. So the pickleball courts are actually scattered all around of them, with probably 95% of them actually, maybe all of them, at the rec centers, and maybe a few kind of stuck in there all over the place. But there's just tons of information, because the two big things that go on here, in my mind, besides dancing out at the squares and music, is golf and pickleball. It's huge, a very active community. So let's see, Monday, October 16th at Roham, which is one of the larger rec centers. Let's get back to where we were here. Now, let's click on the publication right here and see how the information that we can get off of that. Now, if you remember, that's the same, it's the exact same thing as right here. And I'm going to take myself off of here. This is the publication itself, and I'm going to click on the first page right here. And as you can see, the first area you come up to is basically the villages itself. On the right-hand side, you have a giant map. On the left-hand side, if we look down at all these symbols, the one little symbol down here with the paddle and the ball under P, pickleball, is how pickleball is represented. And as we flip through this, for people that haven't seen it, across the top, this is Mulberry Grove Recreation Center. Across the top are all of the activities, facility type things that they have at each one of these. Now, if you click through just a couple of pages, you're going to hit this section right here, which is all about pickleball. So as you go through the whole magazine or publication, there's areas in there that talk about, and I believe if you go to this next one, like, let's see, there's all kinds of stuff. E-billing, they kind of look like advertisements, e-notifications, how to get those, how to registration. I'm going back up until we hit back at pickleball. Here's the thing, is there are two entities on here that I think are probably the largest part of pickleball in the villages. And one is run by the rec centers, and that's the PCVG, the Pickleball Community Volunteer Group, I think is what it is. Kind of a weird name, but that's what it's called. And the other one that's really kind of turned into a large group is called the Villages Competitive Pickleball League or something like that. And I'll explain in a second a little bit further why there's these two entities. The second one, the competitive league, is basically tournaments and stuff. But if you look on here, and we'll jump right back onto this, in the magazine, you're going to see all the information that you can gather here. Now, whether you're a beginner or whether you are really experienced, there's a lot of information in here. There is a big thing going on right now between how you get rated in pickleball in the villages. And there is it's not a really new rating system, but it's a rating system called DUPR, D-U-P-R. And that's kind of a worldwide rating system. And up until this time, the Villages Rec Center had actually done their own rating, where you went out and did a rating clinic. And that's what they're talking about down here in the bottom left, rating clinics. And I'm not going to read through this whole thing. I'm just going to kind of basically explain it, or we'd be here forever. And I just want to give you a kind of brief overview. But you need to read this, and they actually have a a rating system where you would go out and you'd go play pickleball with them and they'd watch you and rate you. Now, slowly, they're starting to change over to where they're starting to use the Duper rating system, which, like I said, is worldwide. It's really easy to do. They also have, if you look just about dead center, right up in there, is the Pickleball Instruction Program. So they have a great program where they will bring you in if you know nothing about it, and they show you some video, you go through some class, and then you go out with mentored pickleball. They also have skills classes and play concepts, and then they explain down here in the bottom right the registration process and how you go about doing that. If you want to learn about pickleball schedules, we'll go through a bunch of these. We'll kind of head towards the back. If you look, say here, Burnside Recreation Center, look across the top and you can tell it has pickleball. You see the paddle and the ball. And then you can go down to where it says Burnside Recreation Sports Schedule. And you can see on here, let's take Saturday, and you can see Pickering Picklers. That's probably a private group, and that's somebody that has the courts reserved. And after that, there's 4 to 550. You got OH Picklers, maybe Ohio, I have no idea. Generally, how it works at the courts, from 7 to 10 in the morning on almost all of the courts, it's what's called open play. And what they mean by open play is anybody can go play. And I'll explain how that works here in a little bit when we go through some of the questions. After that, most of the courts at 10 o'clock, especially when you get into snowbird season in the fall and winter, different things start to happen. So some courts may have, starting at 10 to 12, beginner courts. And that is, they'll actually come out, they'll walk onto the court and say, okay, unless you're an absolute beginner, please leave the courts. Other courts will have intermediate play. Some on the 7 to 10 in the morning will have intermediate play. So what they're telling you is you really don't want to come here if you're a beginner, and I'm sure the people that are playing there would probably appreciate it. You will also find that some of these courts, the people that go there, it has personalities. In other words, when I first came here a couple years ago, when I was on my lifestyle, I went to Eisenhower, which is a fairly large area. The pickleball play there from 7 in the morning to 10 was pretty good. But at that time, when you went to one of the smaller rec centers up the road, you could tell they were playing at a different level. And unless you were really kind of at an intermediate, advanced type of thing, you knew right away you didn't belong there. In other words, if you're getting hit with a pickleball a lot and they're always hitting the ball to you and you're not on the court very long, then it's probably the wrong place for you. Now, a little bit of philosophy, I'm going to say, is from 7 to 10 in the mornings, if you're an absolute beginner, you're going to know right away that it's not going to be comfortable for you. It's not, because you're probably going to get your butts kicked. So look for the beginner courts where it's listed, and that's where this publication will come in. You can pick those up at the rec center anytime you want, or I'll put the link down to this. They call it a flipping book or something like that. And you can just page through this and kind of hunt down whether you're, beginner, and you'll eventually feel your way in. But everybody's really friendly. Everybody will help you out. And if they don't, I got a few words for them. Anyway, let's jump into a couple other things, and I'll show you around some of the pickleball courts. Recapping really quick, what we just went through is you have two kind of rather large entities. There's the PCVG that is run by the Villages Recreation Center. They do a lot of the instruction, introduction to pickleball, safety. They got some videos and that type of thing. and they also run various tournaments. Then you also have, which kind of runs a bunch of tournaments, is the Pickleball Competitive Group. So you have those two entities. Now, what I want to show you is splintered off from that, if that wasn't enough, are a whole bunch of, I don't want to say private, but a lot of groups that you form that you can look at to join. And I'll give you, for instance, one that I went over to go see today. And then I'll show you there is also like localized in each one of the villages. Like our group over at Zell has, I think on Monday and Wednesday, has a social kind of, and anybody can go to that, whether you're a beginner or advanced, whatever. Everybody kind of helps each other out. It's more of a social thing. I think that's Monday and Wednesday, maybe from 4 to 6, 6 to 8, something like that. But those are also posted in various areas also, and you'll figure that out if you're not down here yet, how to get into those groups. But so for instance, let's take a look at this one on Facebook. Here it is, and there are a ton of these all through the villages, and it's just, my hat's off to John Kong. He's kind of started this thing, I guess, and it's a tournaments that go on, and it has really nothing to do with the villages, so to speak, that I know of. But it's just somebody that decided to do this on their own and have some fun with it, and it kind of blossomed, and a lot of people having fun with that. There's also a lot of, especially on the higher end, people that go out and drill. And there's drilling programs that's put on through the villages, but there's also groups that meet up together that are of like talent to, drill, and that's pretty much all they do. So you can find out a lot of these things. Let me see if I can find this up here. I'm not going to open this up, but if you go to that departments and you go to recreation, and then there's resident lifestyle clubs and contacts and stuff like that, you can look up pickleball in there, and a lot of these will come up. You can also look them up on Facebook. So like I said, there is a lot going on here with pickleball. Let's look at some of the questions that I have that I've gotten over the fairly recently, and that'll kind of take us into showing a couple of pickleball courts and actually how it works out there in the real world on the court. So let's get to the first question here. Here's the first question, and I was actually out today and walked around and looked at a couple of the pickleball courts and pod areas and stuff like that. So I'll read these questions, and I have a video. It'll maybe answer them for you. It says, on the pickleball front, are the courts set up where you show up, put your paddle in the saddle, and you play with other 3 people who have paddles in the same saddle, blah, 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 blah. So if you don't know, if you've never played pickleball, there's a bunch of different ways people kind of get in line to go play. And sometimes they have actual racks built, and sometimes they just get in line, and sometimes they just put paddles on a bench or whatever. It just depends on the place. But anyway, take a look at the pads. This is over row hand, and I kind of explained this a little bit.
I was on my way back from the last place that I played pickleball, and I wanted to show you, these are the pods, and they call them pods. So there's pod A, B, and C, and each of these also has a schedule on it. Tells you when the maintenance and everything is. But if you look at these, there's 6 courts on each one of these pods. And the way the system works, I know a lot of other clubs and stuff like that actually have like racks that you can put your paddles in. And on these courts, almost all the courts, they supply the balls. And there's always water out here. There's one small area that has sun, but everybody just lines up along the fence here and does the weight game. And if you look, there's some bleachers out there when they have tournaments and stuff like that. You can watch from out there. And there's just rollers to get water off, and they have a few brooms lying around and some benches. So you do 4 on, 4 off for those that know, that are familiar with that. Every court, every time there's somebody off. If there's not enough courts, you can do 2 on for winners. But if you want to mix it up so you're not with the same four all the time, you just kind of wait and people go ahead of you and that type of thing. So that's basically it. You have that size courts, and some of the other small rec centers, the tiny ones, they have maybe 2 courts, 3 courts at them. You know, they're kind of little outliers, that type of thing. Also up in the northern part of the Villages, there's some with just a couple pickleball courts on here. But this actually, you're looking at, this is actually under repair right here. Kind of look through the thing because it's locked up and it seems like it's been under repair for a while. But that's about it. Those are how all the courts are.
Here's another question, and it's actually 2 questions. I think somebody else wrote something very close to this about finding somebody at your level, your rating, and I have a little video that'll go along with it right afterwards. Lisa writes, did you ever get to play golf or pickleball during your first lifestyle visit? Yes, definitely. I played Arnold Palmer, the championship course, and that was free at that time. You got 2 free golfing excursions when you came down your lifestyle. And then pickleball was a little different because my agent that I had at the time knew nothing about pickleball and wasn't really that helpful. So when you look on these kind of like charts, and I'll show you in this video right here where they are, you can find some of them. It may say open play from 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 6 in the afternoon. That just means the courts are open and nobody's scheduled for it. It doesn't necessarily mean people were going to show up. And that was the problem I have. I didn't realize when I was on my lifestyle that it's in the morning that a lot of the people play, and the afternoons are kind of, maybe there'll be so many people there or not. But you definitely want to check. So I think like at Azelle on Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 12 is beginner. You just have to check and kind of feel those things out. But try to get your agent if you're coming down on a lifestyle visit. But in this video, you can see where I can show you where to look and actually see where some of the schedules are at the courts.
I just cut that, took a videotape of that first part outside of my garage. And as I did, all of a sudden I realized there was a group that was going to play up at Captiva, which is for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like a medium-sized rec center. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right now just because I'm up here. I ended up playing. It was actually pouring rain, not pouring rain, but pretty heavy rain when I got here. And this is what it looks like. There's 6 courts here. And I just got done playing with these guys. And this is a group, maybe if you've watched some of my other videos, Single in the Villages, this is a group that they put together to come play actually 3 times a week. And so that's who this was. Now, as far as pickleball goes, you can look on the pickleball courts and you can look at schedules right here. And you'll see each one of these days, there's groups in here. And most of the time, most of the courts are set up to have open play from 7 to 10. But if you look on here, there's all different kinds of skill levels and so on. Like here's Sunday from 10 to 11:50. Beginner open play. And that pretty much means that these courts, all the courts are reserved for the beginning level. And it definitely, in case I don't say it or I forget to in the rest of the videos, you definitely don't want to be playing outside your level. So if you come in open from 7 to 10 in the mornings, yes, you can play there. There's no doubt about that. But I'm telling you right now, at most of the courts, unless it says beginner, if you're a beginner, you're going to kind of upset the apple cart because there's some good players out there. And but you know, if you want to play, it's the only time you play, then that's when you go play. But if you're a beginner, search out the points where it says beginner, and then there's some that say intermediate, advanced, that type of thing. And then a lot of these, like here, Marla's advanced group. So that's a group that Marla's put together. And I play in another group called Carolyn's Crushers or whatever. And there's a whole bunch of groups. But anyway, that's the medium-sized courts, 6 courts. And you'll see on this side is tennis courts. And then this is the recreation center right here.
That's just about it, really. There's a ton of stuff, but I gave you the information where to go look and find things. once you get here, if you're coming here to live or you're coming through on a lifestyle, you got to snoop around a little bit and find out exactly what's going on. But if you're down there near Brownwood on a lifestyle and you have some experience in pickleball, 7 to 10 in the morning is a pretty good time to kind of sneak over there. And don't be afraid if you come down here to ask people or any of these groups, if you live here, how to get started. I think that's one of the greatest things about the villages in pickleball. There are so many levels. Even if you're not very mobile and you can't run around, there's a bunch of people in the beginners that are kind of, I guarantee you, the same way, or maybe you need to get in shape a little bit before you start going running around. There's a bunch of people. There's social groups, like I said, over here at Azelle, where in the afternoons, they may bring some cocktails with them. I don't know. But it's not like outright crazy. And I've had friends come in and we went over there and kind of banged around, and the really good players will help you out. It's just a really nice community. Anyway, thanks a lot. If you don't have a Duper rating, I highly suggest you go over to myduper.com and you go at least put your name in there and get that settled in, because eventually I think there is another rating group that somebody's going to start using, one of the professional teams, I think, see whether that pops to the surface. But anyway, go get that if you haven't already. And I'm probably going to make some more kind of in-depth videos on pickleball. I'm thinking about getting a pickleball machine here, thinking about it to do a little practicing. Anyway, I start my tournaments next week. I'll let you know how that goes. It's the first time that I've actually done it, like in been a member of one of the teams, so it'll be a lot of fun, and maybe I'll do a little show on that. But from now on, if I'm going to do stuff on pickleball, I'll put a little pickleball sign up there so that you folks know. But I think you ought to, if you haven't tried pickleball, you ought to go out and try it and go take the classes that the Villages has to offer. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you hanging in on this one. It can be a little dry, and I will either see you down here in the Villages, or I will see you back here on YouTube. Go Birds, that's 4. I'm telling you what, if you can see some of the highlights from that game, man, that was a good one. I'm a pretty happy Eagles fan right now. Have a great day.